Introducing In These Times, performed by Noel Paul Stuckey.
There's a warning in the wind, comes wailing through the trees, a depression in the shoreline, left by the pounding seas. There is a lesson in the drought that brings a country to its knees in these times. We are dancing with disaster when we live beyond our needs and pretend our hungry souls are not related to our greed. Life's a journey, but it's not about the speed in these times. In these times, we must be mindful of the gift. In these times, use our hands and hearts to lift a fallen spirit in this land, planting flowers in the sand, reaching out a helping hand. In these times, as the perfect storm approaches and the gale around us roars, no longer can we close our eyes or hide behind our doors. Our choice is fewer now by what we've chosen to ignore in these times. The ship of state is drifting and it's getting hard to steer. It's a complicated issue, but the direction's pretty clear. And each of us is who we need to get to there from here in these times. Oh, in these times, we must be mindful of the gift in these times. Use our hands and hearts to lift the fallen spirit in this land, bringing water to the sand, reaching out a helping hand in these times. In everything that's living, there is a promise of a love planted in the seeds below and in the stars above. We must listen to its message, become a faithful stewards of these times. Ooh, in these times, we must be mindful of the gift in these times. Use our hands and hearts to lift the fallen spirit in this land, planting gardens in the sand, reaching out a helping hand in these times.
And now, Portland Press Herald publisher and CEO, Lisa DeSisto.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 7th Annual Source Sustainability Awards. And thank you to Noel for that wonderful song to open us up tonight. How refreshing to hear some live music after going so long without it. So thank you so much, Noel. While we wish we were all celebrating in person, we are just so happy to be with you together tonight virtually. And I hope we can all raise a glass together to this year's Source Award recipients. And I hope it is with the variation of Christine Burns Rudalevich's special fruity herb and spice simple syrup from the Green Plate Special Cookbook that was also in last Sunday's Maine Sunday Telegram. So every year we usually have a signature beverage at this event, so you were on your own tonight. I hope you did yourself proud. We've got a full program tonight with many people and good work to celebrate and recognize. Adam Lee and Anna Libby of MOFCA will start us off presenting the Russell Libby Scholarships and the Lee Auto Malls Community Farm Champion Award. Then we'll welcome back last year's Healthy Food Champion winner, Amara Effigy, who was recently recognized internationally as one of only 24 National Geographic Young Explorers for her environmental activism. And tonight, she will introduce another prominent climate activist, our special keynote speaker, Joel Clement. Then we will honor our 6 people who have truly made a difference in our communities, the 2021 Source Award winners. And then we'll wrap up with this year's Healthy Food Champion Award presented by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation, and one more musical performance to send you off into the night. It is going to be a great night and would not be possible without our generous sponsors, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation, Hannaford, Lee Auto Malls, and Sprague. We hope you enjoy the evening and are inspired, as we are, by what you hear. So thank you again for being with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Bloom of Hannaford.
Eric Bloom, and I'm Director of Community Relations over at Hannaford Supermarkets. I want to thank the Press Herald for again highlighting the importance of sustainability through the Source Awards. It's very disappointing to me that I can't be there tonight. We've been sponsors since the very beginning. I think it was in 2015. And the reason we do that is because we care about sustainability, and frankly, it's a chance every year for us to get to meet some really fascinating people, to learn from their stories, and to see and hear people who are doing important work in the state of Maine. But barring that, Hannaford would like to congratulate all of the winners tonight and thank you for what you're doing for the state of Maine and for our communities. More than that, we'd like to thank everybody who's associated with this award, the past winners and those who are supportive of sustainability and the environment in Maine, because this work is work that we need to do together. It's something that Hannaford has been working on and committed to for decades, whether that's around waste reduction and elimination, things like reducing energy and our carbon footprint, making sure that seafood and other products are sustainably harvested. It's something that we understand that we can't do alone, that none of us can do alone. So that's what's so heartening about nights like tonight, that we can celebrate those who are partners with us in this work. Again, I want to congratulate the winners of this year's Source Awards and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Eric. We are so grateful for Hannaford's support of the awards. As Eric mentioned, they've been with us from the beginning. And also just such thanks to Hannaford for taking such good care of all of us as we've all endured this pandemic. They've really been there for us. Also today in today's Press Herald, I hope you had a chance to read the story on how Hannaford has eliminated food waste at all 183 stores, diverting 65 million pounds of food from landfills last year. So that's such great leadership on their part. Speaking of leaders, it is now my pleasure to introduce another founding sponsor and a great friend to the Source Awards. He is also the brainchild of the Russell Libby Agricultural Scholarships. Here's Adam Lee of Lee Auto Malls.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to your entire staff at Maine Today Media for undertaking the challenge of putting this event together in a virtual world, and for your continued commitment to supporting sustainable farming in Maine. It's hard to imagine, but I've actually found a few really positive things about this pandemic. First, I realized I don't actually have to go into the office anymore. I can just stay home and be on Zoom. Everybody has a puppy, that's good, I have one. And finally, we all realized how important the neighborhood farmer is. You know, until this happened, people just sort of took for granted that you could go across the street and buy almost everything you need. So it's sort of a wake-up call for us. I've been a supporter of the Maine Organic Farmers and Growers Association for many years, and I'm honored to be here tonight as we celebrate not only the winner of this year's Maine Source Awards, but MOFGA's 50th anniversary as well. It's hard to believe, but it really has been 50 years since a small group of Maine organic growers met to share resources, stories, and chart a sustainable path forward for our state. I am proud to have been a supporter of MOFGA for much of its existence, and to have counted among my friends Russell Libby, who led MOFGA for nearly 17 years. Under Russell's leadership, not only did membership in MOFGA double, but I'm proud to say that Maine has the youngest average age farmers in the nation. After his passing, Lee Automalls, in coordination with MOFGA and the Source Awards, created the Russell Libby Scholarships to honor his memory. To announce the winners of this year's scholarships, I'd like to introduce Russell's daughter, Anna Libby.
Thank you, Adam, and it's so wonderful to be here with all of you tonight. I'm Anna Libby. I am the Community Education Director at the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, and it is my honor to present the 3 winners of this year's Russell Libby Ag Scholar Awards, which, as Adam said, are given out each year to folks here in Maine who are doing some great work, and we hope they take these scholarships and continue their education and the work they're doing to grow great food for all of us here in Maine. The first category is for a Maine high school senior who is planning on a career in sustainable agriculture. And this is this year's winner, Lila Goodrell. She is a graduating senior from Cape Elizabeth High School, and she's planning a career in farming after college. And we congratulate her and look forward to having her here in the growing community in Maine for many years to come. The second category is for an educator who is hosting a project related to agriculture. And this year's winner is Sydney Lynch. And she is growing a great garden with vegetables, herbs, and some native plantings as well at the New Beginnings nonprofit in Lewiston, which supports homeless teens. So congratulations to everyone at New Beginnings. We look forward to those beautiful gardens. And finally, the third category goes to a MOFGA Journey person. And that's a program supporting beginning farmers right here in Maine. Emma Levering will be going into her second year running her own farm and plans to use these funds to help expand her CSA program and invest in some extra cold storage to keep all those vegetables fresh and cool. So congratulations to all 3 winners and to all the other winners this evening. Glad to be part of this growing community with all of you.
Thank you, Anna. It's my pleasure tonight to announce the winner of the Lee Automalls Community Farm Champion Award. The link between our farms and the communities they serve is vital, because that link has the potential to strengthen ties and break down barriers between communities. That community building promise is demonstrated at Liberation Farms in Wales. Liberation Farms is a community farm managed by the Somali Bantu Community Association in Lewiston. It is worked and co-owned by New Mainers over 200 Somali Bantu families. Many families were farmers in Africa, and now they're able to grow food for themselves and sell produce at markets here in Maine. This strengthens their communities and strengthens their ties to their neighbors. On behalf of everyone at Lee Automalls, I'm happy to award this year's Community Farm Champion Award to Liberation Farm and the Somali Bantu Community Association. Congratulations.
Now to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, please welcome the 2020 Harvard Pilgrim Healthy Food Champion and a winner of the National Geographic Young Explorer Award, Amara Ifeji.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amara Ifeji. I'm a National Geographic Young Explorer of 2020 and a 2020 recipient of the Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation Healthy Food Champion Award. Tonight's keynote speaker is Joel Clement. Joel is a PhD biologist who was serving as a senior executive service level advisor to the Secretary of the Interior on the adverse impacts of climate change when, in the summer of 2017, he was arbitrarily reassigned to the office that collects and processes oil and gas royalty payments as an act of retaliation by then Secretary Ryan Zinke. Although dozens of other SES level employees were similarly notified, Joel was the only one to hire counsel and blow the whistle. He placed an op-ed in the Washington Post in June 2017 that was a rebuke of Secretary Zinke's action and promptly filled a whistleblower complaint with the Office of Special Counsel. Clement has become a convincing spokesperson for adherence to scientific integrity in climate science. He is a recipient of the 2017 Joe A. Calloway Award for Civic Courage from the Shafiq Nader Trust for the community interest. It's my honor to welcome to the stage Joel Clement.
Well, my goodness, thank you so much, Amara, for that kind introduction and for giving me a PhD. I'll take it. Greetings from the ancestral home of the Wabanaki people, the people of the dawn here in Wayne, Maine. And thank you to the Wabanaki people for their stewardship of these lands since time immemorial. If there's one thing that gives me strength, that renews my spirit when it flags, it's this little plot of land here in Maine. And I try to steward it thoughtfully as generations of Wabanaki did before the white man came along. I'm delighted to be here to kick things off for the 2021 Maine Sustainability Awards, because these amazing awardees, including Amara from last year, are being honored because they feel the same way about Maine's lands, waters, and people. I'm in the virtual company of kindred spirits, and this event is taking place at an auspicious time. As really important steps are being taken this week to address the many crises we face in Maine and around the world, whether it be climate change crisis, social justice, public health, or the biodiversity crisis. So with your indulgence and in the interest of placing this event in the course of history, I'd like to describe what this week has wrought. First, apologies if my audio isn't great, so I'm going to try and speak slowly and carefully. I want to describe what this week has wrought. The Maine Climate Council, for one, they've mapped out a roadmap for achieving Maine's ambitious and necessary climate change goals, from addressing our emissions to supporting frontline communities. And today, Governor Mills joined 11 other governors to ask the federal government to ban the sale of CO2 emitting cars and trucks by 2035 and heavy duty rigs by 2045. This is an essential step to cutting national emissions, and somehow it caught me by surprise that it's now in the public discourse. So a momentous day. Tomorrow and Friday, the Biden administration is hosting a climate summit that will put the U.S. back on the climate action map after the dismal denial and delay of the Trump administration. And the Biden team's coming in hot. They're in the process of making commitments for this week's climate summit that are far and away the most ambitious and comprehensive goals we've seen. So truly, this administration is pushing the envelope in a way I never expected to see happen in DC. Now, today is also a somber but hopeful day as we process yesterday's guilty verdict in the George Floyd murder. While this verdict gave us some hope that justice may one day be served, it feels like the first of many important steps necessary to overcome the social justice crisis in our nation. As a climate hawk, I know that winning the climate change fight will require equity and empathy. No justice, no peace, no future. There was another important milestone this week as we all grow so damn tired of the isolation and we just want to see the smiles around us instead of masks at a distance. Every adult in the US can now sign up for a vaccine. Underserved communities still struggle to get the shots. Developing countries are still without aid. And frustratingly, a lot of people are declining to get the shot and protect the people around them. But this is still a pretty remarkable thing. In an incredibly short time, and despite a neglectful President Trump in 2020, scientists created a vaccine and it was rolled out across the country. These are tough times, but think about that, what that means. That our old friend science is once again bailing us out, and free socialized medicine is bringing us the goods. Imagine if that could be the norm after the pandemic. Now, there's another crisis that gets a bit lost in all the talk of climate action, and that's the biodiversity crisis. We're losing species at such a rate around the world that it's changing the way ecosystems function, the way plants are pollinated, the way we eat. But it's also altering things as simple or mundane as the sounds we hear when we wake up in the morning. Because I know how fast we're losing migratory birds, I'm on edge this time of year. When I don't see birds, I wonder if this is the year they won't come. Now, maybe I'm a little gloomy about this. I'm a sensitive guy, but this morning, when the first big mixed flock of warblers woke me up and I ran outside with the binoculars, I experienced a renewal of faith. So it's been a week. And these reminders of what's possible give me hope that we can actually tackle this nasty climate change problem. The scientific consensus is that climate change threatens catastrophic impacts if we don't limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The IPCC tells us that to have a fighting chance of doing so, we have to cut global emissions approximately in half this decade, and then continue to drive them down to net zero by mid-century. Until this week, I was having a hard time imagining how we could do this. I've been writing articles about various different pieces of the puzzle. How the US Interior Department must transform, how we must elevate indigenous knowledge holders in the Arctic and elsewhere, how the new administration must confront the politically powerful fossil fuel industries, and how governments must support frontline communities who, as always, suffer the greatest from threats like this. And this is the work in the trenches that needs to happen, but the necessary just didn't seem to add up to the possible to me. But today, as I was awoken by that flock of yellow-rumped warblers, as science delivered that second vaccine shot into my arm, as the nation imagined a social justice future, and as the Biden administration teased that it intends to announce a goal of cutting our national emissions in half by the end of this decade, just as the experts say we must, I felt the world expanding just a bit. These developments this week reminded me that nothing stays the same forever. And if things are going to change, why not do everything we can to make sure that change is in the right direction? And this is the message that tonight's honorees, they don't need to hear. They've shown us how to do it. They've shown us that individual action makes a difference at a time when I think a lot of people are feeling powerless. Now, each one deserves the award because of their remarkable dedication and accomplishments, but also because they are our guides, our energetic innovators, our change makers. They're carrying the lantern through what sometimes feels like a very dark night. So for this, I thank each of them from the bottom of my heart. And I ask that all of you consider your role as we transform our energy economy and address the biodiversity crisis, erase iniquity, and provide for the most vulnerable. This is what public service looks like. And I always find a way to sneak this into my talks. We need more of you in public service. It doesn't have to be the federal or state government, although I will attest to the fact that government jobs can be an incredible way to bring policy change. But we all do have a role to play. Tonight's awardees have shown us how it can happen at the local level or more broadly, but each of us can pitch in. Some of you may have chosen or are already considering federal service. And may I note that my old agency, the Department of the Interior, right now, some 50% of the workforce is retirement eligible. Those numbers may have gone up in the last couple of years. Well, they necessarily would have. And so it's getting high, which is generally true across much of the federal government. So there's an opportunity now to infuse the federal government with innovative new ideas formed during a time of transformation, to reinvent the way we serve taxpayers and the lands and waters that we depend on. For that, we need our youth innovators to consider federal service. And this is also a time of invigorating opportunities in state government. Leaders like Governor Mills are leaning in on climate action and working with partners both in the public and private sector to develop a vision of the future that we can all live with. And then there's your town or neighborhood. Rural Maine in particular could use a lift right now. We Mainers, with some exceptions, are traditionally quite reserved. During difficult times or times of change, we need positive voices of change to rise above the chorus of hate and anger that fills the void from the margins when regular folks don't step up. So consider running for a town or county office, attending public meetings. These days, they seem to be a little overwhelmed by very negative, selfish people. It's hard to do. It takes energy, but every now and then you remember why you do it. You feel change happen and you're lifted into the clouds by the possible. So this week I had my reminders. The honorees tonight, they're your reminders. So let's take inspiration from them. Let's see if we can turn the necessary into the possible. So thanks again for inviting me to speak with you tonight, and congratulations to tonight's dedicated honorees. I'm very impressed, proud of them. Thanks very much.
Now to announce the winners of the 2021 Source Awards, please welcome Portland Press Herald food editor Peggy Grudinsky.
Hi, that's a hard act to follow. Hi, everybody, on this rainy Earth Day Eve, and it's nice to have a rainy evening because, as I know everybody in this audience knows, we really need that rain. It also struck me that if it's the 50th birthday of Mafka, I think it's the 51st birthday of Earth Day. So it's really nice to see everybody here. At least virtually, and I will really miss the chance to meet you in person, which is always something very special about the Source Awards. On the other hand, as Adam Lee mentioned, that puppies have been a silver lining of the pandemic. It's also wonderful to have live music and that amazing, inspiring speech from Joe Clement. So thank you for that. I also want to thank a Green Plate special columnist who is a Source columnist who appears in the food section every week, Christine Burns-Rudalevich, and also Maine Gardener columnist Tom Atwell also appears in the food section every week. And a shout out to Tom. He mentioned in the chat that as he's watching these Source Awards tonight, he is cutting up seed potatoes. So I think that's perfect. And it kind of feels like the Source equivalent of knitting a sweater at town meeting or something. While I'm thanking people, I also want to mention Jeff Raymond. He is a woodworker from industry, and every year he makes very beautiful bowls for the winners of the Source Awards out of local wood. So he's done that again this year, and thank you for that, Jeff. Every February for the last 7 years now, we've asked Mainers to nominate individuals, nonprofits, organizations, and businesses in Maine that have improved done the hard work for the state's environment. And each year think we're going to run out of people, and we never do. We're always amazed at the nominations that roll in. This year we had almost 70 nominations. They ran the gamut, as they always do. We had, among those we considered, we had a business who raises insects to feed humans, a business that raises goats to eat invasive plants and mow the lawn, directors of local land trusts, a teacher who works with kids on school gardens, and many, many more. Normally, the judges who look at all those nominations meet in person at a conference room in the newsroom in the South Portland, but this year, obviously, we did it by Zoom. So I was really struck this year, especially as I was preparing these remarks tonight, how many of the winners of our six winners are just really extraordinary volunteers. And I'm sort of amazed in the face of really massive challenges like climate change, that they have the sort of the hope to think we can take a single step, that every, as that Chinese proverb says, every journey starts with 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And those steps are, as small as planting a seed, planting a tree, cleaning up a beach, having a conversation with a neighbor or a senator. And again, to quote Joel Clements, these folks are really doing the work in the trenches, and I admire them greatly. I have the happy job of introducing them all briefly, and I'm emphasizing the briefly because in our 1 hour ceremony, we can't begin to do them justice. So do read those profiles that ran on Sunday in the paper, and you'll learn a little bit more about them. Peter Dugas is a volunteer lobbyist for the Citizens Climate Lobby, a national nonpartisan advocacy organization that works to enact federal policies to address climate change. A profile in our paper mentioned that to persuade people to enact such policies, he will talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime, senators, business women, clergymen. They'll go to boardrooms, business offices, municipal meetings, coffee shops. And I know this myself from very short personal experience with Peter. When I called him last month to tell him that he'd won a Source Award, he took a moment to kind of take it in. He thanked me, he was very gracious. And then he really immediately, without missing a beat, launched into a discussion about how we can get more environmental content in the Portland Press Herald. And he said, we, because he really included me in the effort. And I had this feeling that that's probably pretty typical of Peter. He knew that newspapers in the 21st century are often strapped for resources. And he wanted to say, how can we help? How can we cover the environment better? He asked who he could talk to at the paper about his ideas. And I gave him a few names and he immediately called all those people. So he didn't let the grass or any native seeds grow under his feet. I was also really impressed with something Peter told Bob Keyes, who's a reporter at the Press Herald who profiled him, talking about climate change. He said, Maine had everything to lose. I'm quoting Peter here. He said, you cannot think of a quintessential Maine industry that is not threatened by climate change. Shrimp, lobsters, timber, blueberries. We have a ton to lose from unmitigated climate change and a ton to gain from an equitable and business-friendly solution. His doggedness, his ability to explain a really big scientific problem in instantly accessible language, and his clear understanding that solutions are going to require buy-ins from everybody are among the reasons we're very pleased to honor his work with a Source Award today.
Thank you very much, Peggy. I really appreciate it. I'm humbled to be on this. I wish I could have a recording of that to share with my mom, because that would be something that very nice to say. And I'm humbled to share this with the other Source Award winners. Everyone's doing a wonderful work, and I see us all as kind of being part of an ecosystem in a way where we're all working on different facets of this, but we're all have a common goal, which is to kind of preserve what we have in Maine in common. We have so much to be proud of in Maine. We're blessed with wonderful natural resources. I would argue the best of the 50 states in the union. And we have wonderful leadership now with the Governor's Climate Council and all the other Source Award winners and all the advocates who have won in the past or were nominated, and who are the unsung heroes out there. I'm humbled because we have 2,000 Citizens Climate Lobby volunteers in the state, and I'm just one of many who could have been nominated for this award. And Maine has done so much, especially recently, to take care of our own carbon footprint and to deal with the existential threat of climate change. And Maine, the way we see ourselves is the thing that Citizens Climate Lobby tries to do that's unique, I feel like, is keeping an eye on the national scale of things, which is important for Maine, because little known to most Mainers, Maine has more is uniquely positioned to guide national policy, because we're the only state with both of our senators on what's called the Senate Climate Solutions Caucus, a 14-member bipartisan group that's working very hard to build bipartisan solutions, believe it or not, in this acrimonious age of political infighting. But we have a lot to be thankful for. And Citizens Climate Lobby is a young organization, but has 200,000 volunteers around the country, 2,000 in Maine, and volunteers. And our criteria for what we want for solutions, it's very basic, just two things. One, it is effective in bringing down climate greenhouse gas emissions, I should say, climate causing agents, 80% of which or more is CO2. So that's the number one target. Methane's after that. But number two is making sure that it protects the middle class and low income folks from who are marginalized and the folks who are going to be taking it most on the chin, the changes that scientists are telling us that are foreseeing. So by that policy, those two criteria let us settle on a policy, which is a carbon fee and dividend, which is a policy that if you're curious about, you can check out citizensclimatelobby.org and read up on it, and we'd be happy to talk to you about it. But with so much at stake in Maine and so much that we can change, because of the unique position we have with Senators King and Collins and Representative Golden, who we'd like to have join Representative Pingree, who was the original co-sponsor for a carbon fee and dividend bill, the Energy Innovation Carbon Dividend Act, HR 2307. And with that, thank you very much, and thank you for everybody at the Press Herald, and it's wonderful to be included.
Thank you, Peter. Heather McCargo of the nonprofit Wild Seed Project exemplifies what one person with vision and dedication can accomplish. She was described in her nomination for a Source Award as a visionary leader who has brought to her work an unparalleled depth of knowledge about the foundational importance of fostering native plant habitat. Heather has a bachelor's degree in plant ecology and a master's in ecological landscape design, and she's worked in the field for more than 3 decades. She founded Wild Seed Project in Portland from right out of her home in 2014, and it's grown so far, because I suspect it's going to grow a lot larger than this, to a staff of 4 and more than 1,000 members. The organization collects and sells seeds of wild native plants. It educates Mainers about why these plants matter, and it helps ordinary people who don't have degrees in plant ecology or ecological landscape design, understand what a big part each one of us can play in restoring biodiversity to Maine. We're losing native plants, and with them native pollinators and the birds who then eat those insects, and on, entire cascading ecosystems at a really terrifying rate, a problem that's greatly accelerated by climate change. The message from Wild Seed Project is that each of us, even in just our backyards, even on a very small balcony, if say you live in town, can help stop or at least slow this loss by planting native plants or rewilding our gardens. Heather told Meredith Goad, who wrote a profile of her on Sunday, I wanted to create a grassroots movement. I want a lot of people doing this. It needs a lot of volunteer help to make this happen. We need to get a lot of these plants back in the landscape. Anybody can do this. Heather added that the feedback you get right away is really powerful. The bees and butterflies and birds start coming back. And that's definitely something I can attest to in my own garden. I planted some rose bushes about 4 years ago, and it's like they seem as sterile as an operating room. Nothing visits those roses. And then I planted some plants, some native plants, something called Culver's root, swamp milkweed, and those are just covered in bees and butterflies. The fact that so many of us are considering this new environmentally critical way to garden is due in no small measure to Heather's work, and it's why she is a shoo-in for a Source Award this year. Unfortunately, Heather, something came up and at the last minute has been unable to join us. So she is, we're not going to hear from her tonight, and we're very sorry about that. Moving on, a key component of the source section in the Sunday paper for which these awards are named was the idea of localism. Local, we used to write all the time, local farms, local fish, local transportation. Christmas time, we talk about locally made Christmas presents. In considering coverage, the source team was always asking ourselves, how is this local and how does it serve the environment? The work of Carrie Mayo exemplifies the importance of local environmental endeavors, of thinking globally and acting locally. In her own community of York, Carrie has organized and energetically participated in beach cleanups. She's fought for green energy. She's worked to mitigate climate change and to reduce the amount of trash going to landfills and incinerators. In her profession as a marketer, Carrie has focused on companies that themselves have a focus on sustainability and social responsibility. And I realize I put all that in past tense, and it should very much be in present tense. Phil Koop, who is the co-founder of Revision Energy, nominated Carrie for a Source Award. And in doing so, he said it's because she is doing everything she can in her private and professional lives to create better, more sustainable future we know is possible for ourselves and for generations to come. He went on to quote Margaret Mead, that extremely famous comment Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." The most accurate description of Carrie Mayo that I can produce, Phil Koop said in a few words, is that she is the living, breathing example of Mead's words. And that makes her ideally suited for a Source Award. So take it away, Carrie.
Oh my goodness. Peggy, thank you. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but it's like an outer body experience, hearing yourself being described in those words. Beyond the honor that I feel and being recognized, it just feels so good to hear from others and to receive the recognition. Phil Koop is the epitome of a company that represents businesses who are considering an impact beyond their profit. He and Revision Energy are a B Corp. It stands for a benefit corporation. It's an absolutely amazing certification process. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Phil Koop. I am striving to become a B Corp as an organization myself. I am truly surrounded by people on my team that are amazing, my community, the businesses that we work with. I often say that, although we may not be able to control the things that we experience, we can control our actions. And as importantly, we can control what we choose to repeat. And I choose to align myself with the actions that are going to create community. I have this marketing mind. I love to enroll people in inspiring positive action. And Peggy, and on behalf of, everybody at Portland Press Herald, I just say thank you so much for recognizing me, my entire team, and the community. We are creating York Ready for 100 and a program called York Eco Homes. We realize how amazing of an opportunity we have in our community to be a model for what other communities can do. And we're aligning ourselves with communities across the state and across borders. We're working with people in Kittery and Portland and Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and we're really trying to learn what is working with each other. If you want to, get involved, feel free to reach out to me, learn more at yorkecohomes.com. And I hope that we can just continue this effort. Again, thank you so, so much.
Thank you. As I mentioned at the start, when I started speaking, this year's Source Award winners are notable for a really extraordinary number of volunteers who are changing their communities for the better. Among them is Andy Burt, who is a longtime environmental activist from Edgecombe. One of the things that impressed the Source judges about Andy is her longevity, her commitment. She's been at this work for decades, and she's still growing strong. Over the years, she has worked for Friends of Casco Bay. She's launched a Women's Voices for Environment campaign for Sierra Club, Maine. She served for 15 years as the Environmental Justice Coordinator for the Maine Council of Churches, promoted a No Idling campaign, which is a personal pet peeve of mine, so thank you for that. She helped form a climate coalition called Maine Partners for Cool Communities, has worked on films about climate justice. She's been arrested for peacefully protesting the Keystone Pipeline, and right now is passionately advocating for the Pine Tree Amendment, which would amend the state constitution to add a right to a clean and healthy environment. If it passes, it would mean that any proposed legislation could not violate these rights. And perhaps instead of cleaning up pollution after the fact, we'd be nipping it in the bud. And Andy, if I have some of that wrong, please correct me. Andy is a Quaker who has championed peace and social justice projects since childhood. According to a story that Meredith Goad wrote in Sunday's paper, she told Goad that she became dedicated to the issue of climate change when her first grandchild, Kelsey, was born prematurely 21 years ago. Andy told Goad you could practically hold her in one hand. She was so tiny. I found myself in a really deep moment of prayer and commitment, saying to Kelsey that I would do everything I could to make sure she would grow up and have an earth and a climate that would sustain life for her, her generation, and beyond. Andy's considerable work toward fulfilling that pledge is among the reasons we are very happy to recognize her years of work with a Source Award this evening.
Thank you so much. I'm deeply honored to receive a Source Sustainability Award tonight. And I want to thank the Press Herald and your staff. I had a wonderful time with the interview and the photographer who came out to our woods, and I got to show them around. I want to say that I'm accepting this award tonight thinking of the many colleagues and activists of all ages, including my grandchildren and Joan Sachs, my longtime partner in all things environmental, whom I have shared the vision and the work for with over the years. And I feel together we continue to create a just and equitable fossil fuel-free Earth community where generations of all living beings may thrive. And I'm sharing this honor tonight with them because it takes a team to really accomplish these things. I want to say I'm excited because the Pine Tree Amendment for me has been a whole new chapter of commitment. And I hope it will be a legacy to preserve the environment for generations to come. We are expecting a vote in the Senate on next Wednesday, April 28th. So we're busy working on that. So in closing, I just want to say onward together. And again, many thanks for this award. Thank you.
Thank you. I've already mentioned how important local efforts are to these Source Awards. At the same time, obviously, it's a big interconnected world, and there aren't any environmental problems that stop at the border of Maine or of the United States or anywhere else. By sending medical supplies to developing countries in desperate need, Partners for World Health, a Portland-based nonprofit founded by nurse administrator Elizabeth McKellen, has kept these supplies out of local landfills and incinerators. Elizabeth got the idea for the organization when she was visiting a hospital in Pakistan. It badly needed medical supplies, and she knew very well from her own work in the US how often such supplies simply get thrown out. Items like outdated operating tables, broken wheelchairs that can be repaired, or IV bags that maybe a patient hasn't used by the time he goes home from the hospital. And she vowed to herself that one day she would find a way to address that heartrending distribution inequity. Partners for World Health collects medical supplies, makes necessary repairs, and donates them to patients and hospitals in need around the world. During the pandemic, the nonprofit also loaned ventilators, beds, and other equipment to New England hospitals that were gearing up for COVID-19, and it supplied medical suppliers in New York and New England with tens of thousands of unused masks and gloves. That's all pretty incredible, and especially in this last year, but we are really recognizing a sort of byproduct of Partners for World Health's principal idea, which is simply that it greatly reduces medical-related trash. Since 2009, the more than 2.5 million pounds of discarded but perfectly usable medical equipment and supplies that the nonprofit has found homes for have not gone into the trash. Our own Press Herald Bill Nemetz columnist recently wrote about some of the challenges that Partners for World Health has faced during the pandemic, and here's how he ended the column. long before we all started fretting about the perils of infectious disease, McKellen and her cadre were traversing the globe, actually doing something about it. Standing in her bustling warehouse, reflecting on what started in her own living room all those years ago, McKellen said she sometimes can't help but take it all in and wonder, what have I done? The woman has done wonders, and if ever there were a time to thank her, it's now. So today we are thanking her in at least a very small way with the Source Award.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really honored this evening to be one of the award winners for this 2021 Source Sustainability Award. And recognition of this kind is vitally important because it shines a light on how we can do things differently. And we can share the abundance with those in need and reduce and reuse and recycle. And that a powerful idea of this magnitude needs to grow and expand in every state in our country. And it all began here in Portland, Maine. And someone asked me the other day, what would have happened if Partners for World Health did not exist? Well, it would have meant that nearly 2 million pounds of medical equipment and supplies would have gone into the landfill to degrade in our environment, and thousands of people in many countries, and even right here in Maine, would not have had access to needed medical supplies. So I accept this award in the spirit in which it is given, and it is an honor to work with so many incredible, dedicated volunteers who have helped to create the success for Partners for World Health. I thank the Portland Press Herald for this honor. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like everyone's thanking us, but really, I feel really strongly that it's the six of you that deserve all of our thanks. A few years ago, I wrote a story about a really agonizing decision I made to take down an ailing red maple that grew next to my house. The tree was about 100 years old and a very beautiful tree. And the response from readers to that story was pretty overwhelming. And everybody, it seemed to me, loves a tree.
Okay.
Tom Clack loves a very particular tree, the American chestnut tree, a species that once was a cornerstone of eastern U.S. forests. It provided food for humans and lots of wildlife, lumber, and a chestnut cash crop for farmers. But in the first half of the 20th century, it was pretty much wiped out by fungal blight. You can't find a more important species to bring back to help the reversal of the ecological disaster we face, Tom told reporter Ray Rudier, who profiled him last Sunday. For 6 years, Clack, who is a professor of environmental studies at the University of New England, has worked in the lab with students at the Biddeford campus to grow blight-tolerant American chestnut seedlings. He's also very much got his own hands in the dirt. He's personally dug holes to plant saplings all around the state. And according to one of his many Source nominators this year, he showed up at her farm all last summer on Saturdays, hauling buckets of water to give these very tender new trees a drink during the very prolonged drought we had. His colleague, Charles Tilburg, who was among those nominating Clack, wrote, "His passion is palpable as he speaks and acts. He is the perfect spokesman for the American chestnut tree. An award is nice, but Tom is much more interested in fixing this problem than in accolades. So many people are committed to fixing the environment as kind of an abstract concept. Dr. Tom Clack lives this commitment." So while we hope you think this award is nice, Tom, more than that, we are really eager to see American chestnuts one day towering over Maine's landscape and all over the Northeast.
Thank you so much, Peggy, for the kind words and for this event. And thanks to the Portland Press Herald and all the sponsors, because this is, I think this is inspirational for all of us. We need this. We need to inspire each other to do better, to make our world healthier. And there's so many interconnections really between these different topics. John Muir reminded us that everything is interconnected. We should think about that. Joel mentioned we're losing species, and it's true. And if you want to, why am I focusing on the American chestnut tree? Because if there is one tree one species we can bring back that's going to make a colossal difference. The native species of the American chestnut, I think, is it. It ruled over the eastern forest. There used to be close to 4 billion of them before the blight, and we're bringing it back. And it's going to have rippling effects in all kinds of ways that are going to be positive for the East and including Maine. So everybody should grow chestnut trees. It's a good thing. It's a major carbon sequestrating tree. It grows fast. It has deep roots. It's rot resistant. So that carbon that it sucks out of the atmosphere is going to stay in the tree. And you could recycle that wood over generations even. It's a food tree for us people as well as wildlife. So it's an amazing contributor to making our state healthier. It takes a village. My students are amazing, but everybody would have to contribute to bringing the tree back. We're going to do it. Let me know if you want to help out in any way. The American Chestnut Foundation's Maine chapter is very active, and you can contact us through that to find out how you can grow some trees. Contact me at UNE if you're interested. And it's a tree that's going to make a big difference in reviving our landscape and making our state healthier. So it takes a village. I'm so inspired by the other winners and by Peggy's comments about them all. Can tell you're so excited about all the great things that are going on in our state. And thank you for letting me be part of this.
Thank you, everybody. I am toasting with Christine's, doesn't work on this background, so you can't see it, but I do have a glass and I'm toasting all of you. We're really awed by what you do, and yeah, congratulations. I love the comment that Joel made that I think it was him who made it, that it's sort of an ecosystem of all sorts of people working together, and that's I love that idea. Now back to Lisa.
Thank you, Peggy, and congratulations to all of our winners. We have one more to go, and our last award tonight is going to be presented by Karen Voci of the Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation. And I just needed to take a minute to give a special moment of thanks and gratitude to Karen and the Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation, who have been with Source since we started this in 2015. And supporting the Source Awards is just one piece of how Karen and the foundation give back to Maine. The foundation has provided grants totaling more than $3.8 million to food access programs in Maine, including the state's first mobile farmers market in Lewiston, Auburn. So on behalf of the Source team at the Press Herald and all of the organizations who have benefited from Karen's generosity and the generosity of the Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation, we say thank you to you, Karen, as you head out on your next adventure. Know that you are always welcome and a friend of Maine, and come soon because we are going to have so many chestnut trees for you to sit under and get some shade. So it is now my pleasure to welcome Karen back, who always does an amazing job bringing it home here at the Source Awards. Thank you, Karen.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa, and thanks everyone who is here tonight. This has been such a labor of love for me and for the foundation, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that the foundation is really all of the staff and all of my colleagues throughout New England who work so hard to keep people healthy at Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. They lead us, and we have been so happy to find Maine and to find the projects that every one of you are leading. You all know, and I know Lisa knows that, my dad had a farm on the Kennebec River, and we would go there and move rocks every summer. And so I kept trying to move back to Maine and never made the cut. So this is really my way of trying to buy in to be at least an honorary Mainer. So I'm going to be coming back every single time you have these awards, and can't wait to see you in person. So it's my privilege to present the Harvard Pilgrim Food Champion Award for 2021. And it was wonderful to see Amara. She's so poised and so smart as she introduced the keynote speaker. And this year we are presenting the award to the Eastern Woodlands Rematriation, led by Olivia Moore of the Penobscot Nation. And Olivia's group is leading a collective of Indigenous people who are restoring their traditional farming and medicinal practices. Olivia's not able to be here, but first she might say, and excuse me, I will probably need to read this. Rematriation repowers our people and allows us to remember that we have what it takes to live healthy, balanced lives. By centering Indigenous women and two spirits as medicine people, midwives, and food producers, we are rematriating our food and economic systems in a way that's more resilient and just. And if that doesn't sum up what all of you who have won the awards tonight are doing, I can't imagine a better way to do it. The thing that is so amazing about everyone who's won and everyone who's here participating, and why I am so in awe of the sons and daughters of Maine, is that no matter what the challenge, you see what can be done, you see what's possible, and you just do it. You know, no ceremony, no hesitation, and you keep going. And as you save yourselves and your beautiful state, you save the rest of us. So thank you. We are all in debt to you, and we are all waiting to see what amazing things you'll accomplish over this next year and beyond. So I'll turn it back to you, Lisa, and you can see us out.
Thank you so much, Karen. And thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. I hope you're as inspired as I am by these dedicated Mainers that we are so lucky to have as our neighbors. Thank you to Noel. Thank you to Amara. Thank you to Joel. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of an audio issue coming from Wayne, Maine, but oh my gosh, his words were so powerful, and we intend to get you all a transcript of his comments tonight. Congratulations to all the winners, our Source winners, the Russell Libby Agricultural Scholarship winners. I want to quote Joel. I thought it was so powerful when he said, and it just made me think of all you wonderful Source Award winners, individual action makes a difference. You are our guides, our change makers. Thank you for carrying us through this dark night. So powerful. Thank you. Thank you, Joel. A final thank you to our sponsors. We cannot do this without you. Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation, Hannaford, Lee Auto Malls, and Sprague. And I have to say thank you to the Source team at the Press Herald who made this happen again tonight. Peggy, you do an amazing job leading this whole process. And to Leslie Bridges, our features editor, event masterminds, Allison McCann, who's behind the scenes, and also Strawberry Mosney is amazing. And also, you know, Jen Gondek was our narrator tonight. She's our HR director and also voiceover, because we all roll up our sleeves at the Press Herald and just get it done. Thank you to our attendees for all your comments and support in the chat tonight. We're going to send you a list of all the links that were featured, because you may have missed a few of them and want to go back and check out some of the things that were shared. So you'll get a follow-up email from us. So now let's close our evening with a performance with special permission from Dave Mallett. I think we all know the words to this song, and I am counting on you to sing along at home. Thank you and good night.
Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rains come tumbling down. Pulling weeds, picking stones, man is made of dreams and bones. Feel the need to grow my own, 'cause the time is close at hand. Rain for grain, sun and rain, find my way in nature's chain. Tune my body and my brain, full of music from the land. gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rains come tumbling down. Plant your rows straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will make you strong if you give her love and care. Old crow watching hungrily from his perch in yonder tree, and in my garden I'm as free as that feathered leaf up there. Up there, inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm